Well, we'll take stock of what global cues are looking like early this Friday morning. Well, weak cues overall, and that's led largely by the announcement by the chairman of the Federal Reserve saying that he's expecting to hike rates in May by 50 basis points. Now, post this announcement, Nomura has taken out their views and they've said that they expect 75 bip rate hikes in the month of both June as well as July, which will lead to a very solid increase of 2% on the federal rates, which will of course be a drag on markets and which will of course have negative cues for markets, and that's exactly how the situation has panned out across yesterday. In fact, US markets were in the green prior to the announcement, which came out at 1 p.m. US time, and subsequently the markets saw a bit of a tank. When we look at the Dow, it was down over 1%, the S&P 500 was down 1.5%, and the Nasdaq was down over 2% in trade yesterday. In fact, those are the closing rates. And when we look on the inverse at what happened in bond yields, well, they skyrocketed. So bond yields have now closed in to that 3%. The 10-year US bond yield has closed into the 3% mark, which is clearly showing where the market is headed or where the expectations of the market is. When we look at European indices, though, that happened, of course, European indices closed prior to the announcement by the US Fed. So European indices were largely in the green during close yesterday. So let's quickly move on to how Asia is looking early in trade today. Entirely negative. We're seeing a sea of red at the moment. The Nikkei is down 1.9%. Shanghai is down 1/3% or so. The Hang Seng down over 1%. The ASX 200 down over 1.5%, and the Kospi down over 1% as well. So across the board, we are seeing a sea of red. The SGX Nifty 2 was down almost 1.5+% in early trade when we switched on for today. Currently, it's around 1.25% lower. So almost 200 points lower in early trade today. Definitely negative cues coming out across the board. Despite the fall, US futures are also looking currently in the minus. So across the board, currently there is a negative sentiment. Moving quickly on to what commodities are looking like. Well, it's not helping the situation at all. Oil is currently holding out above the $103 a barrel mark, so which is again more negativity broadly, and that's adding to the pressure. And when we look at gold, it's retreated marginally, of course, following the increase in bond yield. So gold has fallen just below that $1,950 an ounce mark. When we look at bond yields, I did mention bond yields are very close to that 3% mark. In fact, 2.97% is where they are currently as we speak. So just another 3 basis points to hit the 3% mark. And that has obviously led the dollar index higher as well. So that's breached the 100.6 mark as well. So again, there will be pressure on currency. Of course, exporting companies will benefit from this. And lastly, Bitcoin is holding out just above that 40,000 mark, $40,000 mark. So cryptos are holding out, and Bitcoin is just above that 40,000 mark. But of course, it's tapered downwards since yesterday. So broadly, currently, it looks like a negative day for indices to end the week this Friday.